Welcome to the 100 Master Coaches series featuring master coaches from around the world. Let's journey together on this 100 Master Coaches series with your host, Coach Mel, MCC. Hayden Lee is a Master Certified Executive Life and Leadership Coach. He is an Enneagram teacher and co-founder of Mastermind Institute, a partnership with neuroscientists to merge the fields of brain science and professional coaching. Hayden works with high-achieving executives, leaders, who are ready to fly higher and find their weird, for exponential growth in their personal and professional lives. Now on to the show.
Hello, and welcome to the 100 Master Coaches show. This is Coach Mal, and today I have with me a special guest from LA, Los Angeles. He's none other than Hayden Lee. Come on, let's give him a big hand. Welcome, Hayden, to the show.
Woo. Thank you so much, Coach Mel.
You're welcome. So we've had a little bit of a chat before the show. How's it been living in the States? This is an opening question.
Yeah, well, I was actually born in Northern California. So I was born in Oakland, which is near San Francisco, and I grew up in Sacramento.
Okay.
And then I moved to San Diego for college, which is in Southern California. And then I moved to Los Angeles. So for the first half of my life, I was in Northern California, and then the second half of my life, I was in Southern California. Yeah, I was born in USA, and my parents are from Hong Kong. So I was the first generation to be born here.
That's fantastic. We're going to continue with that journey. Right? How did it all begin for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's quite an interesting story. So after college, I moved to Los Angeles, and I worked in the entertainment industry, actually.
Oh, wow.
So I have a background in psychology, and I also have a background in acting. So I was in Los Angeles, and I was working as an actor. And also I worked behind the scenes a little bit in talent management and also in casting. But like many people in Los Angeles, when you're young and in your 20s, you're doing you're acting, you're working in entertainment, but you also need other forms of income, right? You need other supplemental income. So I was also working at a restaurant as well. Like, there's a joke in Los Angeles. It's like the bartenders and waiters in Los Angeles probably all have master's degrees and PhDs, which is quite true, because we're so highly educated. Yet when you're pursuing entertainment, it's like everyone's equal playing field. It doesn't matter if you have a PhD or, it's like you're going to need to make ends meet. But anyway, so I was doing all that, and I was also an SAT tutor. Oh. So for our international viewers, an SAT tutor, it's the Scholastic Aptitude Test. Yeah. So, high school students in the United States have to take that test in order to apply to university. Yeah. So I was working with these high school kids, and they were very ambitious and driven, and they wanted to get good scores, get into a top university. Yeah. So I was working with them. And as an SAT tutor, you're just helping them do well on the test. You're not actually giving them any life skills, or you're just teaching them how to do well on the test. Yeah. So that kind of bothered me, because I'm working with all these kids, and they didn't, when I was asking them deeper questions about who they are, or what's important to them, or why are they doing this, they couldn't answer other than, well, it's what everyone's doing, or it's what my parents want me to do, or if I get a good SAT score, then I get to a good college. If I get to a good college, then I get a good job. And then, okay, well, then what, right? I tell them, okay, so what if you have a good job? And so it was really hard for them to think beyond, right? Think of more possibilities than you take the test and then you go to college. And so I came across this program called Academic Life Coaching, and it was online. Academic Life Coaching was specifically a program to get trained and certified. It's an ICF program to get trained and certified as a life coach, but specifically geared towards working with youth to help them find purpose and passion in their education. So it's all about helping them develop as leaders and for them to have fulfillment in school. And I just loved it. It blew my mind because, imagine students enjoying the learning process. Imagine students actually, loving their education and seeing it for more than just a way to go to college. It's actually to live life fully, right?
Yeah.
So I did that training, and I did really well at that. And then I actually was able to start doing coaching full time, right?
Mm.
So I was doing coaching full time, working with these students, and I did lots of workshops around Los Angeles about how to find motivation, how to sustain motivation, how to find your core motivation. I do a lot of work in the Enneagram, so I was even bringing the Enneagram,
Mm.
into work with these kids. Enneagram, for those who don't know, it's like a self-development system based on your motivation, and so understanding what drives you and what motivates you.
Yeah.
So it was awesome just helping these kids. All of a sudden, they were excited about school. They were more passionate. And we never had to open any textbook, right? Because I'm not teaching them math or teaching them
Mm.
SAT anymore. What I'm teaching them is to look within themselves and to really reflect on who they want to be, what their values are, what's important to them, and then have their actions align with their values. And I did that for quite a couple of years, and I loved it. And it was kind of revolutionary at the time because the tutors are everywhere, right? The tutors are flooding the market, but a certified academic life coach to help young people find their purpose and passion, like, it sounds crazy, but it was very much needed. um, and the parents started noticing these transformations in their kids, right?
Mm.
So instead of the parents arguing with their kids about homework and deadlines, the kids were being more self-leaders and being motivated and more excited to take care of their own school stuff, right? So
Mm.
then now at the dinner table, they're not arguing about homework, they're having deeper conversations, right?
Yeah,
The
that's right.
questions that I'm asking these kids, they're starting to ask their parents these types of questions, like values and future self, like all these things that 16-year-olds don't usually talk about. But
Yeah.
the parents were noticing these transformations in their kids, and the parents started also asking me, wow, Hayden, you've totally transformed my kids. Do you work with adults? Do you work with
Yeah.
teams? Is there any way you could take this type of like leadership training that you've been doing for my kid and do it for my team, executives? And to be honest, I did not have that training, but I said yes anyways, because of
Yes.
course I do. I can coach
Woohoo.
anyone. I work with all types of people. One of my mottos is, when there's a great opportunity, always say yes and
Yes.
figure it out. You'll figure it out as you go along.
Yeah.
So that's really what then inspired me to start getting further training in executive coaching. And
Right.
then I got accredited in the Enneagram, and then I got certified in these diagnostic tools, like these leadership 360s. So I started,
Mm.
getting trained and certified in all of these other tools, specifically to help high achievers and
Yeah.
executives and leaders and entrepreneurs. And I work with a handful of coaches too, right? People who are like me, basically, really
Mm.
ambitious people who know they have more inside of them to do even more. They want to take it to the next level.
Mm.
Um, and it all kind of goes together, because the purpose of your show is to really, inspire coaches and to hear the stories from MCCs. And even in my story, I started, coaching 10 years ago, working with teenagers. And I would have
Yeah.
never guessed, 10 years later, I'm working with high level executives, C-level executives. And I even teach some neuroscience. I do neuroscience of coaching. So it's just this idea of, just like how coaching itself is this dance, it's this journey. You don't really know where it's going to go, but you trust the process and you
Yeah.
just trust your intuition. And then you always end up somewhere wonderful, just like my coaching journey. Like I started
Fantastic.
working with these kids, and I had no idea 10 years later I'd be where I am now in the space that I work in with coaching and
Yeah.
in coaching.
Well done. It just reminds me of how I'm sure you and I meet quite a bit of people transitioning. So I'm just curious. Everyone's obviously have their own little journey, turning left, turning right, making right decisions, making some wrong ones. What would your advice be, right, for someone who is at that brink right now?
That's a great question. And I think it's very, very common, right? I
Yeah,
think,
of course.
for
That's
when,
right.
well, when I worked with the kids, it's like all they wanted was to get that straight A's or to go to a
Yeah.
great college.
Yeah.
But then they get there, then what? And the
That's
same
right.
thing happens with adults. You have this great corporate job, you make a lot of money. Okay, that's great. That's important to have
Yeah.
financial security, but then what? right?
Yeah.
So it's very similar. Like when I was working with a 16-year-old or with a 56-year-old, coaching there's a lot of similarities.
It's
But,
just like a couple of decades difference. That's all, the
yeah,
60 and the 56. But they're
yeah.
still wanting the same thing.
The
Okay.
age is different, the context is different, but the
Mm,
human condition is the same. And I
good.
guess maybe
Yeah.
that's a good way to answer your question, that when the advice for
Mm,
people who may feel a little bit lost or they want to do transition, especially in COVID times,
yeah.
everyone's world has turned upside down. Everything we
Definitely,
thought
yes.
was certain is not. So if anything, I think it's important for people to not get wrapped up at this point in what to do,
Yeah.
or what's a specific job I want, or what is it that I want to do. It's to really focus on who you want to be,
Mm,
to focus on what lights you up, what motivates you and excites you.
yeah.
Because even with me, even though I've held lots of different positions, like acting, SAT tutoring, and now coaching, those are different jobs,
Yeah.
but my mission is
Mm,
I love to inspire people and to make people feel like they can be more than they are, and to embrace who they really are, and
mm,
have fun. And even as an actor, like as an Asian American actor in the industry, like I love acting. I still do acting, and I do comedy, I do improv, I
it's so
still do all that
good.
stuff. But at the heart of it, it's because I want to inspire people. I want to inspire people to laugh, to have fun, but also to know that there's more in them to do better. But when I lost interest in SAT tutoring, it's because I realized I wasn't making the impact and difference I wanted to make. Because
Yeah.
my goal in life, like I said, is to help people find that inner courage
Yeah.
and strength to really step up.
Yeah.
And you can only do so much of that as a tutor, because you're teaching them how to take a test. So then that's how I came to coaching, which is, wow, what a perfect combination to be able to use my skills to
Mm,
draw out brilliance in people, to help people see, to inspire them and motivate them. So I think that would be my advice, is not to get wrapped up in the title or the specific job
yeah.
and the doing, but it's all about the being, which in the coaching world we hear it time and time again, but it always goes back to the being. It's not about what do you want to do, what job do you want to
Yeah.
do. It's about who's the person you want to be, what's important to you, what's the impact you want to make. And from
Yeah.
there, you might be able to discover your next step,
Mm,
because it doesn't matter what the next step is if it's not in alignment with who you want to be.
of course. The be and then the do. And I guess many would argue that the being would be, it's hard, isn't it? Or maybe the brain will tell us in neuroscience, right?
Mm.
It's hard to find that out. It's going to be like I have to do all kinds of things, and I'd rather just stick to the safe stuff, the doing, because it's
Mm-hmm.
worked. It's safer. I'm getting money for it right now, right?
Yeah.
So there is obviously that place where we have to come,
Yeah.
where the pain and pleasure and perhaps more of that wish, the dream becomes bigger than the pain. What your thoughts are on that?
Well, I think it's what comes up for me is about the difference between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic
Mm,
motivation, right?
got it.
So, extrinsic motivation being the external rewards, if
Yeah,
I do
true.
this, then I'll get this, all that
Yeah,
conditional stuff. And of course,
yeah,
intrinsic motivation being motivated from the inside, right? Doing something
yeah,
because the action itself is the reward. And so conditional motivation is important, or extrinsic motivation is important, obviously, because we need external things to survive. We need food, we
yeah.
need shelter, we need water, we need security and money, all that stuff,
Correct.
right? But then that's not what sustains
Mm,
long-term fulfillment,
it's true.
right? So I like what you said, that, yeah, I've been doing this for a long time and it works, but it works until it doesn't, right? Because, right, it's like
Yeah,
we hear the saying, what got you here won't get you there. Everything you've done
yeah,
has worked up to this point, but if
it's
we
so
want to
true.
get to the next level, something's got to change. So the intrinsic motivation, it is hard. Being is
Mm,
hard, because I work with overachievers. Like, overachievers, what you can't do being, right? My high achiever, they like, can I
that's
just
so
check it off
good.
the box? Can I just
Yeah,
practice being 5 minutes a
that's
day?
right.
And I'm
That's
like,
it.
you can't do being. Being is this whole shift in how you think, who you are. And in terms of neuroscience, neuroplasticity, just this
Yeah,
idea that the brain can infinitely grow, but the
that's it.
brain cannot learn unless there's discomfort, right?
Mm,
So the brain can infinitely build new neural pathways to learn new skills. So being is a skill set, and it is uncomfortable because when you're not good at it. But you have to lean into that discomfort in order to build new neural pathways. Otherwise, you don't learn. Otherwise, you don't grow. So to answer your question, yes, being is hard, but also it's worth it. That's where life really can take off. It's about having the courage to jump in, right? Because I don't think any MCC that you've encountered will say like it's a piece of cake, or that it's totally easy, or that we haven't doubted ourselves many times or have had resistance. But I guess it goes back to having that mission of why you're doing this. Like I always say, you have to have something to fight for, right? You have to have a reason to why you're doing it. And it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. I say that a lot too.
It brings me to the next question, which is the brave question, right? And obviously, we've been talking about how we need to get to that tough decisions in our life. And would love to ask, what would be your bravest moment as a coach, right? With all your different clients, your high achievers on one side in the workplace, and then of course the other side, which is the high achievers and students, right? What would be your bravest moment coaching any one of them?
So I've been coaching for 10 years and I've been full-time, maybe like 8, like full-time coaching, not having any other income except coaching. So I think the first brave moment was taking that plunge. I'm doubling down. I'm full-time coaching. I'm not going to have any other income. So it's really doubling down and betting on myself. Right? Because I'm an entrepreneur, right? I am not an internal coach. I'm an external coach, right? I don't work for a company. I work for myself. So there's that really, really brave moment, I think. And that is a really good question. In my coaching group where I'm a participant, something I often say is, I rarely have imposter syndrome. But then I realized in the last year, that I'm not playing a big enough game. That it's like I've been successful at what I'm doing, but I'm also playing it safe myself. So my next really big courageous moment, I think, is I want to up-level the industry of coaching, but I also want to be coaching kind of titans of other industries who can really shape their industry, whether because I'm in Los Angeles, so I do have contacts of entertainment moguls who could change the shape of the entertainment industry, and I have other people I work with in like hospitality industry, like these really big players. So I think my next courageous moment is to be able to really step up and own that, that I work with not only high levels, high achieving people, but it's like titans of industries, right? Like literally people who make decisions that could change their whole industry. I have contacts who are leading medical companies, like healthcare companies, and I'm talking about like presidents of healthcare companies that I have on my phone that I actually I've been texting. But my next courageous moment is yet to come. I guess that's the answer to your question. Like my first courageous moment was 8 years or like 8 years ago, and since then I've been little courageous moments, right? Like increasing my prices, adding a zero to my rates, incrementally. So it takes courage there. But I think my big courageous moment, which really makes me feel like a little bit scared and a little bit of that imposter syndrome, is being able to put myself in front of these titans of industries and invite them to a coaching conversation or invite them to experience my coaching. That will be really courageous for me, and I'm working up to it. I've been working up to this for several months, and I've been talking about it to my coach and my coaching groups. What's going to happen? So that's
so good, and that's so good because you have mentioned it on this show. So there you go.
It's out there.
It's out there, and you're gonna do it, I'm sure. Right? Just like how you have hustled, if I could use that word, really hard, right, for everything that you've done thus far. including even moving from SAT coaching in that sense to workplace leaders, right? So it's definitely shifts happening over there. So just wanted to say, come on, you can do it. I'll be watching. I'll be watching. I'll be
Yeah,
supporting. Over the last 10 years, then, what would be your top three, if possible, insights that you want to share on this show that you've learned along your 10-year journey as a coach?
the first insight is I alluded to it a little bit earlier, that no matter if someone's 15 or 55, it's about the human condition, and people, we're so much more alike than we are different. And no matter the age, what comes up time and time again is that fear, right? Of how that fear stops people from living a bigger life, right? So I think, and the insight that fear never goes away, no matter how successful a person is or how big you get or how old you get, fear never goes away. But it's about changing your relationship with fear. Wow, and I think that is an insight that I've had for everyone I've ever coached. Fear in some way comes up, comfort zone in some way comes up. And regardless of who they are, how much money they make, how old they are, that is probably the number one thing that coaches coach people through. And the number one thing that if people have a desire to, live a bigger life or live a fuller life or want something more in their life, they have to at some point confront their relationship with fear.
So good.
So that's definitely one big insight. A second insight, I think also, which is applicable to coaches, especially starting newer coaches on their coaching journey or coaches striving to get their MCC, and anyone who's on any journey, is there really is no failure. Like, what I mean by that is there's only learning, and the only way to really fail is to stop trying. Right. And I think that's a really, really important insight. Is I always tell people, fail bigger, keep on failing, like make mistakes. The brain loves mistakes because that's how you learn. And I think the only way to not be successful at anything is if you quit, is if you stop trying. And I know you had mentioned earlier too that you train coaches, and so I have a background in training coaches as well. I've trained hundreds of coaches and an ICF coaching school, and I mentor coaches, and I listen to the recordings, and I love coaching, and I love coaches, and I love coaching. Yet I'm sure you feel this the same way. Doesn't it break your heart when coaches quit? Doesn't it break your heart when coaches stop trying? I mean, I'll see the expression in your face. I mean, it's like, come on, you got, because coaching is such a wonderful profession. Like literally it helps people make their dreams come true, right? It sounds cheesy, but that's what we do as coaches. And coaches, they start and they're in coach training, they're so excited and they want to change the world. And then it gets a little hard. Right. They get rejection. They get failures. And I'm like, well, it's not a failure unless you quit, keep on going. So I think that, and it's not just coaches, it's even anyone in business really, or in life, even athletes, right? The athletes who make it to the Olympics, they've fallen so many times, they've failed so many times, and even I was listening to a podcast called Business Wars. It's kind of cool, this new podcast, and it kind of talks about like these icons of industries and how they rise and how they start competing. So I was just listening to an episode about the makeup industry and how these two like juggernauts, in the industry, but how they all have humble beginnings, right? Like these people making makeup in their kitchen, and then they sell it to the department store, and then it gets bigger and bigger. But every step along the way, they messed up. They made mistakes, and imagine if they had quit, they wouldn't be a household name today. So it's the same idea, that this insight I had, that if you want to get great at anything, you're going to be in the minority. And that's important. If you're going to be great at anything, you're going to be in the minority, because by definition, greatness is achieved by the few. Yeah. So even at our level, as I am a proud MCC, you're a proud MCC, there's roughly right now about 1,200 MCCs worldwide. Yeah. I mean, that's the minority, right? So to be able to reach greatness or mastery in any industry or field, whether it's basketball, coaching, hairstyling, whatever it is, you realize that to achieve greatness, you're going to be in the minority. So you have to think in the minority, meaning you have to think differently. You have to think how everyone else isn't thinking. And the majority of people, when it gets hard or when they have resistance, they quit. Yeah. So really the insight is, if you want to achieve greatness at anything, as long as you don't give up and you keep on going, you're already going to be heads above the crowd, because the majority is going to quit. Yeah. And that breaks my heart, and it's sad, but it's true. If 100 coaches start coach trading, in 5 years from now, I don't know, will 20 of them even be coaching anymore? I don't know. Yeah. And I just tell coaches, it's going to get hard. Yeah. You're not going to be, and especially coaches maybe leaving from corporate when they're transitioning to coaching, let's say, you're not going to be making as much money as you did in your corporate career, not at the beginning. Yeah. But if you stick with it, there's exponential growth, meaning you have the potential to every year, let's say, double what you make. But if you keep on doubling it in 5 years, you're going to be making more than you did in your corporate job. And that's how people don't think. They're not thinking about that long-term mindset, just to stick with it. So that's 2 insights, even though they're very long-winded.
So good. Keep it going.
And I guess what would be a third insight is, I don't know, I'm just kind of, what the thing that just came to me right now is, you got to love what you do. Yeah. I guess that's just an insight. You gotta love what you do. If I guess you mentioned it earlier, many people maybe they have a corporate job and they've been working there for 20 years and they have a lot of, I don't know, 401k or pension or whatever it is. Yeah. Do you love what you do? Because if you don't love what you do, is it even worth it? Like, for me personally, it's not. But I think that's a question that every person needs to ask him or herself at some point in their life. Because like you said, you will reach a point, where you're like, wow, what's my next step? Because if anything about COVID times, it's forced all of us to slow down and think. Think about, what am I doing? Think about my life and what is worth going back to, right? Because we are changed as a world. Things are different and they're going to be different. And we have to ask ourselves, am I enjoying what I do? Do I love what I do? Because if not, then it's time to pivot and to discover something else. And if you don't love what you do, that's okay. And if you don't know what you love to do, that's okay too, right? But it's about putting in the effort to look and explore and learn and grow and fail and fail and fail and make mistakes and learn from it again. Because I think we have this notion, and especially adults as we get older, that we're supposed to have it all figured out, or we should know what we're passionate about by now. We should know what we love to do. If I haven't figured it out by 40 or 45, it's hopeless. If I don't know who I am by 50, it's hopeless. And I'm here to tell you, absolutely not. We're human. Being a human is a lifelong journey. Like, what I love is I have the oldest person I've coached, probably my oldest coaching student was in her 70s. So that was cool. This
We've
woman
got
in
something
her 70s.
Similar.
Yeah.
I've coached someone as well. 70 plus.
In the 70s. So. Yeah. So what a great inspiration. That's like, as long as you have the desire to keep on learning and growing, you can. But that was the oldest person I've coached who's learning to be a coach. Yeah. But I've actually, I do some health coaching as well. I do lots of coaching. I do some health coaching. So I've had coaching conversations with someone in her 90s who's learning to get healthier, wanting to lose some weight and instill healthier habits in her 90s, right? So this idea that we tell ourselves, oh, if I don't have it figured out yet, or oh, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I love to do. Oh, but it's too late to figure it out. That is just nonsense. Because if a 90-year-old something lady can want to learn ways to be healthier and lose weight and change her life, anyone can do that.
Yeah, so we don't have excuses then.
There's no excuses. Just find what you love to do and don't give up until you find it.
So good, so good. I often ask this question, Hayden, and this is 2021, time stamped because this is going to be in the vaults, right? Forever. What do you think is the future looking like? The future, especially in the context of coaching.
That is a great question. Coaching itself as a profession and as an industry is relatively young, right? I would say, I don't know, 30 years or something, that really it was really a legitimate profession. And
Yeah, it's true.
because the last decade or so, there's been a lot of disruption and transition in the world.
Mm.
So because of that, the rise of coaching, because coaches are change agents, right? We help people discover more about themselves in order to make a change. So there's been so much change and disruption in the last 10 years, the coaching industry has blown up. So I think even in terms of the ICF, the membership and credential, people who are credentialed in the ICF has grown exponentially.
Yeah.
Because people are seeking development and growth and wanting to be a better version of themselves. So I think the future of coaching, people will continue, the coaching industry by the numbers will continue to grow. And that's both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because more people helping people will help more people live their dreams. Like ultimately, that's what I want for the world, for everyone to have the courage to love their life and to do things they love. More and more people are going to be open-minded to want to learn and grow and experience new things. But the curse part of it is anyone can call themselves a coach, right? And then people think they're coaching when they're really not. Oftentimes we say coaching, the bar of entry is very low, but the bar of success is very high. And I think that's true. It's to get to a level where you are really highly skilled as a coach and highly skilled in the business of coaching. It's hard to do that. And those are two very distinct skill sets, by the way. Coaching skill set, you got to get good at that. Business skill set, you got to get good at that too. So in order to be successful at both of those, it's hard. It takes a lot of time. But I think because there's so many people going to coaching who their heart's in the right place, I think they love helping people and they're excited and motivated to inspire and empower others. But perhaps they haven't had formal training or proper training or any training, and perhaps they are just giving advice left and right when that's not really what coaching is. And perhaps they're dangerously combining coaching with therapy, and maybe they're not trained in either. That's definitely dangerous to be diving into therapy and to be working with people that are not ready for coaching. They should be in therapy, and then someone who's untrained is trying to coach them when they should be in therapy. So there's so many different potential pitfalls that as the industry grows, that's why I really think it's so important to have training. I think it's so important to have feedback in your coaching. It's so important to have coaching supervision. And I think the ICF, obviously, I'm a believer in the ICF as a, MCC. Is the ICF the end all be all? Of course not. However, it has, but the existence of the ICF, it's in a way, I think what people don't understand, the ICF itself is not a school, right? The ICF is this organization whose mission is to raise the standard of coaching worldwide, right? To uphold a high standard of coaching. So in my opinion, if we want to be a really professional, legitimate coach for a long time, why would I not want to master my craft? Why would I not want to invest in learning how to be a better coach? And like I said, is the ICF way of coaching the only way of coaching? Of course not. But the ICF, it credits other schools in order to, and every single school has their own coaching model, yet it has to abide by some sort of standard. So I think as coaching increases, individual coaches will need to make that decision whether or not they would like formal training or to, understand the ICF and get credentialed or certified by the ICF. And of course, that's an individual decision. But I think the more coaches who really want to take this seriously, who really want to master their craft, will be looking to a governing body and to help them. And the ICF's been around for 30 years and they do research on what makes a great coach. So why would I not want to learn the research behind what makes a great coach? And I wonder if because of the success the ICF has had in the last 30 years in terms of upholding this higher standard, other organizations like the ICF might sprout up here and there. Like I know there's a European, right?
Yeah.
There's a European Coaching
EMCC,
Federation. Yeah, and I know there's another. I think there's three. I'm not too familiar. I'm most familiar with the ICF, but I bet I see the coaching industry in the next 5-10 years. I think it will even double or triple in terms of numbers of coaches there are now. So as a result of that, there will probably be other governing body that tries to establish its own standard of coaching. Coaches need feedback and they need supervision. They need a more experienced coach to give them feedback on their coaching. And I think the coaches haven't gotten feedback. It's probably back due to fear. Again, it is really scary. I remember when you got your MCC mentor coaching, it was like, but it's what we needed to hear. It's how we grew as coaches. So I think sometimes the fear of some coaches who maybe haven't had feedback, it's because they don't want to somehow learn, oh my gosh, I've been coaching for 5 years and I'm totally doing it wrong, or I'm totally not even doing it the right way. And I want to invite coaches to be like, that's okay. Have that, because how can you get better if you don't know that, right? And also, at the end of the day, we're here to serve our clients. We're here to serve our clients and make the world a better place. So we cannot serve our clients and make the world a better place if you do not know how to improve your coaching.
I like to say we're all work in progress. So there is tons to be done and tons to realize so that we can become as well. So there's this continuous journey for each one of us. That's one of the reasons, Hayden, why I started this 100 Master Coaches, right? And we were talking about that in the pre-show. It's because there's this wealth of knowledge. It's within each one of us. And what better ways to bring that all together and harness it and put it into a beautiful jar of wisdom for the world. So thank you for being on the show. I've got a final question, and I often ask this: what is your powerful question that you love to leave behind for the people listening in today?
There's one powerful question that is probably my favorite, and I would like all the listeners, to reflect on this powerful question. So a lot of times, people will, we give our clients or space to share what's on their mind, or a space to share what the agenda is for the day, like just really getting clear on what they want to focus on in the session, right?
Yeah.
And I listen, quietly, and I take it all in, and I just take a pause, and I ask them this question: what's this really about?
Wow.
And I let them sit with that. And I love that question because it kind of cuts through the BS sometimes, and especially when someone has a lot to say and they're maybe frantic or nervous and they're all stressed out. And I'm like, come down, take a moment. What's this really about? And it's a good one. And I invite anyone listening to this show right now, wherever you are on your coaching journey, whether you're a coach or not, whatever your next level is, and whatever you're going through, take a second to reflect and think about, ask yourself, what's this really about? Because the experienced coaches, as experienced coaches, we know that 99.9% of the time, what you think is the problem, it's not the problem. Yeah. And it's not just in coaching, it's any time. Well, going back to neuroscience, we have that amygdala, right, which is that lizard brain. Whenever we have a high emotional response, take a second. What's this really about? It's such a powerful question. What is this really about? Parents, I work with parents, like when their kid, I don't know, spills the water and you want to scream at the kid. Wait, what is it? Wait, what's this really about? It's not, is it really about the glass of water? Because it's just a glass of water, So just having that awareness will really help us grow.
Nice. Thank you, Hayden. Really, really. And this is the time where I invite you to share your media handles and upcoming events to anyone listening here to be able to connect with you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for the invitation to do that. Well, the best place is to check out my website, haydenlee.com. So it's HAYDENLEE.com. And on there, I have information about my coaching. I also run Enneagram groups. If there's anyone interested in becoming in a group experience, diving into your Enneagram, I have information about that. I run coaching groups as well. It's called Extraordinary Coaches Circle. And that's for, coaches aspiring to, learn how to be better coaches, get feedback. We talk about business skills. I have a YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is Hayden Lee Coaching. I have lots of videos on there. A lot of it is around the Enneagram currently, a lot of Enneagram stuff at my YouTube channel, Hayden Lee Coaching. And you can check out my Instagram. My Instagram also is, my handle is Hayden Lee Coaching. So
wonderful. Yeah. And with that, I say thank you, Hayden, for your time, for your wisdom.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mel, for having me on the show. And it's good to know that I have a fellow MCC on the other side of the world who's on a similar mission that I am. It's really, let's really help coaches and help the industry become better, because it helps the world. When we have better coaches out there, it helps everyone. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And with that, this is Coach Mal signing off with Hayden on the 100 Master Coaches Show. Catch you guys on the next one. Bye for now.
Bye.
You have been watching the 100 Master Coaches series with your host, Coach Mel, MCC. Brought to you by Catalyst Coach. www.catalystcoach.live. We will be right back with our next Master Coach on the 100 Master Coaches series.